All right, here we go. This is gonna be our first recipe that we're sharing for our Food 102 class, or anyone else who wants to do it. So welcome to our kitchen. This is Ms. Holmes at her own place. I thought it would be really great to start our cooking by cooking homemade pasta. If anyone's been to Thriftway or IGA, you might have noticed that pasta's not always in stock right now. So I thought, yeah, you can make your own. This is very simple. Also, I thought it would be really great to make homemade nettle pasta this week because nettles are in their peak season right now. We just had a big batch delivered to our house by my daughter Freya and my mother-in-law Shirley. So what I did already was I have taken the nettles and I blanched them in water so they're not stingy anymore. They're really ready to go. So I thought we would start by following a recipe that I've used before, and that's this recipe over here. This comes from a really interesting book called Cooking by Hand, which especially now seems like a great time to be using that. I haven't used it in a while, so I thought it'd be good to open it up. So for spinach, you can do this for spinach as well if you don't have nettles. The suggestion is you start with 8 ounces of spinach or nettles. So my scale. And I've already pretty much worked this out, so it's an 8-ounce portion. The container it's in is why it's a little bit over that. So I have my 8 ounces of that, and then I also need 10 ounces of semolina. And so I have semolina right here, just from bulk. Sometimes gets, I think, underappreciated. This is a really coarse flour made from durum wheat. And what we're going to do is we're first going to zero out our scale, and we want 10 ounces of this semolina. I'm just going to pour this straight from the bag. Watching until we get to about 10. And if you can't find semolina, you could use regular flour. I don't think that there's too much of a problem. I think whoever you make this for, they'll be so happy that you made them homemade pasta, they won't care. Oh, okay. Take that back a little bit, down to 10. This is a great time to bug the parents if you don't already have a kitchen scale. Kitchen scales are awesome. If you cook by weight, you can never go wrong. All right, there we go. So we have about 10 ounces of semolina, and we have 8 ounces of our nettles. Now what we want to do is we want to wring the nettles out of as much liquid as possible. So I'm going to need, can you grab like a kitchen towel? My assistant will be getting a towel. And I'm going to, any kind of kitchen towel will be just fine. I'm going to dump this. These have already been blanched, so you'll need to blanch your nettles or your spinach. And then we're just going to squeeze out the juice. Look at all that juice that's coming out. Nettles are really high in a lot of wonderful minerals, and that provides this really dark, rich liquid. Get as much of that liquid out as possible. All right, and now we're gonna check again and see how much. Can you get me a little bowl? See how much this weighs now. I'm looking to get this down to about 4 ounces of greens. So I'm back at 0. Look at that, 4 3/4. That's pretty great. So I'm going to keep that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blitz this in a food processor. Can you go get the food processor? We're going to break this up into really tiny bits. And then I'm going to add water to this. This is an interesting pasta because it doesn't take any eggs. Typically when we make pasta we use eggs to do it, but for this one we don't. We just add water. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put some of this liquid back into the pasta that we make. But first, we're going to blitz our nettles in a food processor. You can also do this, you can do this by hand. You can work it into a paste, probably a little bit better. If you do it by hand, you should use mortar and pestle to do that. Might be good if you want to work on those muscles. But a food processor is going to do pretty fine as well. All right, so that's pretty fine. You can see that. It's really, if I look at that, like, it's really tiny, tiny little bits. So now I'm going to add, I'm gonna put the flour. You can do this in a standing mixer. I'm gonna do this right here in the food processor just to keep my dishes to a minimum. Ooh, looks like green sand. That looks great. And now the cool thing with the food processor, in my opinion, is you can add your liquid. Can you get me about half a cup of water? You can add your liquid while you're processing. So remember I said I'm going to put in some of this really dark green juice back in. So I'm going to start my food processor. Pour just a little bit of that in, because it'll be pretty strong. And then I'm going to add water in. And my total water that I'm going to add in is probably not going to exceed half a cup of water. And what I'm getting already is I'm getting this really great dough. You can already see it right there. I'm going to try this a little bit more, see if we need to add any more water. Okay, so it's starting to form a clump here on its own. I'm going to pull a little bit of this out, put it on my board, see if I can knead it. Here it seems like it's really coming together pretty nicely. Getting a nice dough. Right now it's kind of breaking apart, but I feel like it's pretty moist, so I'm going to take off the rest. I'm going to just knead this a little bit. If you remember the trick that we already talked about in class, I always put my finger into the underneath to hold the blade in place to be safe.